The Facts of Life wasn't just a sitcom, it was a family. But behind the scenes, there were secrets, pain, loss. Some stars faded quietly. Others fought private battles that fame couldn't heal. Now, decades later, we look back not just to remember, but to understand. Because behind every smile on screen was a real person, with a story far deeper than we ever knew. Don't forget to like and subscribe for more. Let's go. John Lawler, as Headmaster, Stephen Bradley. John Lawler, born on June 5, 1941, stepped into the world of The Facts of Life in 1979 at the age of 38, playing the role of Headmaster Stephen Bradley, the firm but fair principal of Eastland School. Though his time on the series was brief, limited to the show's first season, his character laid a foundation of discipline and structure amidst a sea of teenage chaos. As the only adult male figure in the early episodes, Stephen Bradley offered a unique dynamic, the voice of authority wrapped in patient understanding. While many remember the warmth of Mrs. Garrett, it was Bradley who often had to bring the hammer down, whether it was over school policies or rebellious pranks. But John never played him cold. Behind the stern gaze was always a hint of empathy, a quiet concern for his students' futures. Despite being written out after season 1 due to a creative overhaul, John Lawler's portrayal left a subtle but lasting legacy. For longtime fans, Headmaster Bradley remains the blueprint of the tough but kind school administrator, a man who expected excellence, yet never forgot his students were still kids, learning to find their way. Off-screen, John lived a life marked by depth, introspection, and a devotion to craft. Before television, he had trained in theater. Shakespeare was his first love, and he brought that classical rigor to every role, no matter how small. Acting for him was not about fame, but about truth. His personal life, however, was quiet and marked by solitude. He married briefly in the late 1970s, but the relationship dissolved within a few years. The couple had no children. Instead, John poured his paternal instincts into mentoring young actors. For over a decade, he taught acting at a liberal arts college in upstate New York, where his students described him as tougher than nails, but with a heart made of velvet. In the later years of his life, John moved to a peaceful lakeside cottage in Vermont. He lived surrounded by vintage theater posters, books stacked to the ceiling, and a beloved Irish setter named Fenwick. His days were filled with quiet rituals, morning walks, evening jazz records, and letters, dozens of them written to former students, colleagues, and the occasional fan who still remembered Stephen Bradley. John Lawler passed away on February 13, 2025, at the age of 83 from natural causes. There were no major obituaries, no trending headlines. But within the small circle that knew him, and in the memories of loyal Facts of Life viewers, his presence remains strong. His portrayal of Stephen Bradley was more than a role. It was a reflection of the man himself, principled, disciplined, but always quietly compassionate. Charlotte Rae as Edna Garrett. Charlotte Rae, born on April 22, 1926, joined the Facts of Life at the age of 53 and quickly became the warm heart of the entire series. As Edna Garrett, the dorm house mother and spiritual mom to a group of young girls, Charlotte appeared in over 150 episodes. She began as a supporting character on Diff'rent Strokes and went on to lead a spin-off that became more successful than anyone expected. Her portrayal earned her an Emmy nomination in 1982, and more importantly, cemented her image as a model TV mother in the hearts of millions of American viewers. But behind the camera lights was a life filled with cracks and heartache. Her 25-year marriage to composer John Strauss ended in 1976 after he came out as bisexual, a revelation that left Rae emotionally devastated and forced to rebuild from the ashes. At the same time, her son Andy was diagnosed with autism and epilepsy, placing immense financial and emotional strain on her. She sometimes had to sell cherished possessions to cover treatment costs. During this period of loss, Rae battled alcoholism and only found salvation in Alcoholics Anonymous meetings. Playing Mrs. Garrett brought light into her life, but also came with heavy pressure to maintain a certain image. Ray was required to dress a certain way and tone down her appearance to match the producer's idea of the ideal mother. When she left The Facts of Life in 1986, the character Edna was retired to join the Peace Corps with her new husband, Dr. Bruce Gaines. Charlotte continued working in theater and voice acting, but the towering shadow of Edna made it difficult for her to escape typecasting. Even so, she harbored no bitterness toward her career. Instead, she filled her Los Angeles home with old scripts, fan letters, and photos from the set mementos of a role that changed her life. Charlotte Rae passed away on August 5, 2018 at the age of 92 after a battle with bone cancer. In her final years, she lived in a $4 million home that resembled a small museum preserving the legacy of a woman who had lived wholeheartedly with an open heart. Her portrayal of Edna Garrett lives on as a symbol of kindness, gentleness, and the quiet strength of women who stand behind the success of younger generations. Chloris Leechman as Beverly Ann Stickle. Chloris Leechman, born on April 30, 1926, joined The Facts of Life in 1986 at the age of 60, playing Beverly Ann Stickle, Edna Garrett's sister. Chloris wasn't there to replace anyone, but to breathe new life into the series, appearing in around 40 episodes during the final seasons. She infused the role with quirky charm, helping the show maintain its appeal during a transitional period after Charlotte Rae's departure. Audiences loved Beverly Ann for her flexible, slightly eccentric yet heartfelt portrayal. But for Chloris, an Oscar winner for The Last Picture Show and a multiple Emmy Award recipient for her dramatic roles. This wasn't exactly a dream part. The Facts of Life offered her steady television work, though it sometimes pulled her away from the gentler, more nuanced characters she cherished on stage and screen. Her marriage to director George England was filled with both romance and conflict. Though they divorced, they maintained a curious, enduring bond. The greatest tragedy of Chloris's life came in 1986, the same year she joined the show when her son Brian died of a drug overdose. She kept his photo by her bedside for the rest of her life, a quiet, constant grief. Chloris never stopped working, from Young Frankenstein to The Mary Tyler Moore Show. And in later years, she became known as the funny grandma to a new generation of viewers, even though her heart still longed for the theater. "I could do so much more," she once said, "but people only see the surface." Chloris Leechman passed away on January 27, 2021, at the age of 94 in her home in Encinitas, California, a place where she still danced to old jazz records each morning. Hers was a bold, extraordinary life filled with silent interludes no one else could see. Marge Ducai as Monica Warner. Marge Garee. Marge Ducai, born February 20, 1936, made her first appearance on The Facts of Life in 1981 at age 45. As Monica Warner, the wealthy, sophisticated mother of Blair, she only appeared in about 10 to 15 episodes, but each time left a strong impression. Monica wasn't the warm, nurturing type of mother, but rather a symbol of high society. Cold, commanding, and composed. Her presence helped audiences better understand the roots of Blair's personality, off camera. Marge's life was far less glamorous than the elegant characters she portrayed. She had once been married, but that relationship gradually cooled and ended in the 1980s. She never sought a second marriage and chose instead to live alone quietly. Her greatest heartbreak came in the early 1990s when her only son died from complications related to AIDS. Marge rarely spoke of her grief, but always wore his ring in silent tribute. Her later television roles, mainly in Santa Barbara and various soap operas, couldn't fill the void or erase the sense of being forgotten by Hollywood. Marge Ducai passed away on January 28, 2020, at the age of 83. In her modest Manhattan apartment, she spent her final years surrounded by her own paintings, vintage jazz records, and cherished scripts from her career. A woman who once embodied elegance on screen, she ultimately chose a quiet life where memories became the softest, lasting light. Nicholas Coher as David Warner. Nicholas Coster, born December 3, 1934 in London, played David Warner Blair's strict and successful father in approximately 8 to 12 episodes starting in 1982. At 48, he was in a downturn in his career, and the role gave him a much-needed resurgence. By expanding Blair's backstory, his character added depth to the show and revealed the pressure of living up to a powerful parent. It was a quiet comeback for Coher, who had been struggling both professionally and personally. Off-screen, Nicholas Coster had gone through a divorce in the early 1980s, accompanied by accusations of infidelity that strained his relationship with his daughter. It was a lasting pain. Another emotional blow came in the late 1970s with the suicide of his brother, a scar he never fully healed from. On top of that, a battle with alcoholism nearly derailed his career, but he chose recovery. "I wanted to be remembered for something other than my mistakes," he once said. After The Facts of Life, he continued acting in television and theater, but never recaptured the spotlight of his earlier years. He lived a modest life in a townhouse in New York, spending time writing in journals and reflecting on the roles that shaped him. Nicholas Coher passed away on June 26, 2023, at the age of 89. In his final hours, he sat by the window overlooking the city, his hand resting on a notebook filled with unfinished thoughts. He was a man who once lived in the spotlight, but left this world in peace and quiet. Roger Perry as Charles Parker. Roger Perry, born May 7, 1933 in Davenport, Iowa, appeared in The Facts of Life in 1981 as Charles Parker, a charming, romantic man featured in just a few episodes. Though the role was brief, his presence brought warmth and balance to a show largely centered around female relationships. Charles offered a lighthearted, gentle dynamic during a period of transition in the series. Audiences already knew Roger from Star Trek and various TV shows of the 60s and 70s, where he often played the handsome, affable supporting man. In The Facts of Life, he showed a softer, more humorous side that brought a fresh breeze to the screen. Off-camera, Roger's life had a melancholy undertone. He had once been married to actress Jo-Ann Lee, star of Bewitched, but the marriage ended quietly and without children. Letters discovered later revealed his deep desire for a complete family, a wish that was never fulfilled. As his career stalled, Roger found himself stuck in the same kinds of roles: the friendly sidekick, the dependable best friend. Though beloved, these roles left him feeling boxed in. In his later years, he lived in Southern California, in a home filled with jazz records, old books, and unused scripts. Roger Perry passed away on July 12, 2018, from prostate cancer at the age of 85. He died in that quiet house with music in his ears and memories in his heart. An artist who chose to live by his own rhythm. Alex Roco as Charlie Ponyic. Alex Roco, born on February 29, 1936, played Charlie Paul Ponyic, Joe's tough but deeply loving father in several episodes, starting in 1981 when he was 45 years old. Best known to audiences for his role in The Godfather, Roco used this character to break out of the mobster-type casting and reveal a warmer, more human side. Charlie was gruff, emotionally awkward, but ultimately a father who loved his daughter fiercely. That complexity made him one of the show's most beloved supporting characters. Off-screen, Roco's life was just as dramatic. Before moving to Hollywood, he had been involved in Boston's criminal underworld, a past he tried hard to leave behind when he moved to California to start over. But the shadows of his past never fully disappeared. The sudden death of his wife, Sandra Elaine Caruso, left him to raise their 3 children alone. Among them was Jennifer Roco, who followed him into acting, but their relationship was strained. His stern demeanor and emotional distance created a rift they were never able to fully mend. On the set of The Facts of Life, Roco sometimes felt like an outsider among a cast that had become like a real family. After leaving the show, he turned to voice acting and found some success, but he always felt that Hollywood never fully embraced him as a leading man. Alex Roco passed away on July 18, 2015, at the age of 79 after battling cancer. He died in his Studio City, California home, surrounded by film memorabilia and the vintage cars he loved. Though he stepped away from the screen, his portrayal of Charlie lives on as a quietly powerful symbol of fatherly love. Hugh Gillan as Howard. Hugh Gillan, born July 14, 1925, played Howard the warm-hearted cook at Eastland School in about 5 to 10 episodes starting in 1980 when he was 55. Howard brought a light, comforting humor to the show, helping to build the cozy atmosphere that made the facts of life so beloved. Though Gillan had roles in major films like Psycho 2 and Back to the Future, most of his career was made up of supporting characters. Small parts, few lines, but always sincere. Audiences appreciated his authenticity and the gentleness he brought to the screen. Beyond the spotlight, Gillan lived with private sorrow. His wife died in a car accident about a decade before he joined the show, and he wore his wedding ring every day after as a quiet way of keeping her close. One of his 2 children cut ties with him, blaming him for being absent during years when Gillan was chasing acting work. In later life, he struggled, financially burdened by medical bills and ongoing legal disputes over property. Hugh Gillan passed away from natural causes on May 4, 2004, at the age of 78. In his final days, he lived in a modest Los Angeles home where he spent hours at a wooden desk, sketching scenes from old films with pencil. It was a quiet farewell for a man who brought warmth to every role, no matter how small. Nancy McKeon as Jo Ponyic. Nancy McKeon, born April 4, 1966 in Westbury, New York, made her debut on The Facts of Life in 1980 at just 14 years old. As Jo Ponyic, the tough, rebellious girl in a leather jacket with a motorcycle, Nancy quickly became an icon of her generation. She appeared in roughly 180 episodes, and the role propelled her to the height of fame. But the spotlight didn't last forever. NY's personal life was filled with emotional challenges. Her high-profile relationship with Michael J. Fox in the 1980s captured fans' imaginations, but it quietly ended, leaving a wound that lingered for years. In 2003, Nancy married film technician Mark Andrus. Though they stayed married, his work often kept him away, and Nancy primarily raised their 2 daughters on her own. The pressures of single parenting, coupled with a fading acting career, led her into a period of emotional turmoil. Things became even more difficult when her brother actor Philip McKeon passed away after a long illness. That loss prompted Nancy to reflect on her life with a mix of regret and sorrow. As acting opportunities dried up, Nancy began facing financial difficulties. Once a television star, she transitioned to becoming an acting coach and opened small classes in Austin, Texas. Her current estimated net worth is around $2 million, just enough to support a quiet life. Surrounded by a small garden, she finds joy in tending plants and teaching children how to act. At 59 in 2025, Nancy McKeon may no longer stand in the spotlight, but she remains a cherished part of television history and the memories of countless fans. Lisa Whelchel as Blair Warner. Lisa Whelchel, born May 29, 1963 in Littlefield, Texas, began her role on The Facts of Life in 1979 at just 16 years old. As Blair Warner, a beautiful, wealthy, and somewhat snobbish young woman, Lisa appeared in all 201 episodes. Her charm, wit, and screen presence quickly made Blair a teen icon. The role earned her a nomination for the Young Artist Award and propelled her into television stardom in the early 1980s. Lisa's real life, however, was full of contradictions. Raised in a strict Christian household, she often felt out of place in the glitzy Hollywood world. Behind Blair's perfect smile was Lisa's own hidden sadness. In 1988, she married Pastor Stephen Cobble, and the couple had 3 children, Tucker Haven and Clancy. But after 23 years, the marriage ended in 2012. She later revealed that she had struggled with postpartum depression during those years. After The Facts of Life ended, Lisa found it difficult to land new roles. Blair's image was so iconic that she was repeatedly turned down for other parts. She shifted her focus to writing and faith-based speaking engagements. But in 2024, an unexpected scandal erupted when former co-star Mindy Kahn hinted that Lisa had tried to block a reboot of The Facts of Life, a move that disappointed many longtime fans. Now, at 61, Lisa lives in a quiet rural area of Texas. Her estimated net worth is around $3 million, mostly from syndication royalties and speaking tours. She spends her days writing books, tending her vegetable garden, and caring for her pets. The past is no longer a burden. It follows her like a gentle shadow, one that no longer hurts the way it once did. Kim Fields as Dorothy Tootie Ramsey. Kim Fields, born on May 12, 1969 in New York, stepped into the spotlight on the facts of life at just 10 years old, playing Dorothy Tootie Ramsey, the roller-skating wide-eyed dreamer with big ambitions. Appearing in all 201 episodes, Kim became an essential face of the series and a standout example of diversity in a 1980s sitcom. But behind the success was a childhood far from easy. As a young black actress in a predominantly white industry, Kim was under constant pressure to be a perfect example, smart, polite, and mistake-free. She once said she had to learn to act even off-camera, always performing the role expected of her. It was an invisible weight carried by a girl barely into her teens. Adulthood brought its own challenges. Her first marriage ended in heartbreak when her husband struggled with addiction, leaving deep emotional wounds. It wasn't until she married Christopher Morgan that she found peace. Together they had 2 sons, Sebastian and Quincy. Yet even in her stable family life, Kim has battled anxiety rooted in old scars and the weight of her past. She stepped away from Hollywood for nearly a decade to focus on therapy and faith. When she returned, she was no longer little Tutti, but a grown woman, a director, producer, and successful entrepreneur. Today at 56, Kim lives in Atlanta. Her estimated net worth is around $8 million, thanks largely to her work behind the scenes and her business ventures. Each morning, she starts her day with yoga meditation and a gentle smile. Not a performer's smile, but one earned through years of healing. The Facts of Life was more than just a sitcom. It was a reflection of growing up, a patchwork of laughter and life lessons sewn together by actors whose real stories were just as moving as the ones they played on screen. Who was your favorite actor from the show? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye.